There comes a moment in every soul's life when the ground beneath you begins to shift, not to break you but to move you. You feel it first as restlessness, that quiet whisper telling you the life you've been living is too small for the person you're becoming. It feels like something invisible is rearranging your path, closing doors you once begged to walk through and opening new ones you never imagined. This is not chaos, this is alignment. A fresh start from the universe rarely arrives with celebration. It comes disguised as endings, disappointments, or the sudden realization that you can no longer tolerate what you once accepted. When the universe is preparing you for a new chapter, it removes anything that cannot exist in the next version of your life. You're not losing, it's clearing. You're not failing, you're shedding. The first sign is inner discomfort. When your soul is ready to evolve, your old habits, old surroundings, and old relationships become too tight, like wearing a life you've outgrown. This discomfort isn't punishment, it's the pulse of transformation. The second sign is detachment. You begin to separate from people, environments, and beliefs that drain your energy. You may not understand why, but you feel exhausted by what once felt familiar. This is your intuition reclaiming its authority. The third sign is unexpected endings. What looks like loss is often redirection. The universe removes what blocks your path, even if you would never remove it yourself. What falls apart was never meant to stay. The fourth sign is sudden clarity. One day, you simply know. You see the truth behind your relationships, your desires, your fears. What was blurry becomes unmistakably clear. This clarity is the moment your inner world becomes louder than the world around you. And the fifth sign is renewal, an unexplainable sense of hope, even when nothing around you has changed yet. You feel a subtle pull towards something greater, something more aligned, something that feels like coming home to your true self. This hope is not imagination, it's recognition. It's your future calling you forward. A fresh start is not given to everyone. It is given to the ones who are finally ready to release the version of themselves built from survival and step into the version built from truth. You are not being pushed by life, you are being guided. You are not being broken, you are being opened. And the universe is not testing you, it is inviting you to rise, to begin again, and to become who you were always meant to be. Inner discomfort is often mistaken for something going wrong, but in truth, it's one of the clearest signs that your spirit is preparing to evolve. It shows up quietly at first, in the form of restlessness, irritation, or a subtle sense that the life you're living no longer fits who you're becoming. You may find yourself questioning things you once accepted without hesitation. You may feel uneasy in routines that used to comfort you. Conversations drain you. Old dreams don't inspire you anymore. There is a constant tug inside you, pulling you somewhere you cannot yet see. This discomfort is not a flaw, it is the pressure of growth, the tension of transformation happening beneath the surface. When your soul expands, anything that once kept you small becomes harder to carry. You begin to outgrow environments that suppress your truth, relationships that don't nurture your evolution, and versions of yourself built from survival rather than authenticity. So the discomfort intensifies, not because life is punishing you, but because it's preparing you. It's trying to move you from who you were to who you are meant to become. The friction you feel is the energy of your old identity resisting the emergence of your new one. Inner discomfort exposes the places where you've been settling, compromising, or shrinking just to belong. It reveals the emotional contracts you signed unconsciously, the ones that told you to stay quiet, stay small, stay predictable. When this discomfort rises, it disrupts all the illusions you've depended on. It forces you to confront the truth that staying where you are will cost you more than stepping into the unknown, and even though stepping forward feels uncertain, remaining still becomes unbearable. This is why growth rarely feels graceful. It pushes you into reflection, into honesty, into deeper alignment. It makes you question your relationships, your choices, and your own motivations. It asks you to let go of anything that no longer resonates, even if it once meant everything. It invites you to take responsibility for your healing, your desires, and your future. And while this process can feel unsettling or even painful, it's a necessary disruption, one that clears space for the life your soul has been quietly waiting for. Inner discomfort is the universe's way of whispering that you're ready for more, not more in terms of achievement or validation, but more truth, more authenticity, more alignment. It's a sacred signal that your evolution has already begun, even before the evidence appears in your outer world. Detachment is often misunderstood as coldness or withdrawal, but in reality, it is one of the deepest forms of self-protection the soul can create. It emerges not from indifference, but from clarity. You detach when something inside you finally recognizes that your peace matters more than your patterns, and your energy matters more than your expectations. It happens when your spirit becomes tired of carrying what was never yours to hold: other people's chaos, their projections, their neglect, their emotional inconsistencies. Detachment is the moment you stop bleeding yourself dry to keep connections alive. It is the moment your inner world steps in and says, "No more." This inner shift rarely arrives with loud declarations. It begins quietly, with a soft fading of interest, a decline in emotional investment, or the sudden awareness that certain people or environments drain you more than they uplift you. You notice you no longer feel compelled to explain yourself, prove your worth, or fight for a place in spaces that don't honor your presence. You stop chasing closure. You stop rehearsing old conversations in your mind. You stop sacrificing your peace just to maintain relationships that offer you nothing in return. This is not giving up, this is choosing yourself. Detachment becomes protection because it frees you from emotional entanglements that damage your sense of self. It interrupts cycles where you lose your identity by trying to hold on to people who have already let go of you emotionally. It shields you from dynamics where your empathy becomes a target and your softness becomes a tool for others to manipulate. By stepping back, you reclaim your intuition, your boundaries, and your dignity. You begin to see people for who they are, not for who you hope they could become. You start listening to the truth instead of your longing. This form of protection also creates space for emotional neutrality, where you are no longer controlled by fear, attachment, or desperation. Instead of reacting impulsively, you observe. Instead of absorbing others' energy, you recognize what belongs to you and what doesn't. You learn to walk away without anger, simply because your well-being is no longer negotiable. Detachment doesn't mean you care less. It means you care without letting that care destroy you. Ultimately, detachment is an act of self-preservation. It is the subconscious wisdom that rises when your heart becomes tired of being hurt in the same ways. It is the quiet revolution inside you that chooses healing over chaos, truth over fantasy, and peace over emotional captivity. Endings often feel like the most painful moments of our lives, not because something has gone wrong, but because we don't yet understand what's being made right. When something ends, whether it's a relationship, a job, a friendship, a dream, or a familiar chapter, it leaves behind emptiness, confusion, and the sense that the ground has been pulled from beneath you. But endings are rarely final. They are transitions disguised as loss. They are the universe stepping in to remove what you would have clung to, even if it was slowly draining your soul. They are not punishment, they are protection. What leaves your life is often what would have limited you. What collapses is often what was never strong enough to hold the weight of your becoming. In the moment, it's hard to see this. The mind resists change, and the heart holds on to what feels familiar. You search for reasons, replay conversations, blame yourself, or question your worth. But with time and distance, the truth emerges: what ended was misaligned. It no longer matched your growth, your values, or the person you were evolving into. Sometimes it was built on illusion. Sometimes it was built on fear. Sometimes it was built on an older version of you that no longer exists. Endings come when you're ready to rise, even if you don't feel ready yet. These redirections can feel like interruptions, but they are actually course corrections. A door closing is often the only way another door, the right one, can open. When life blocks a path, it's guiding you to another. When someone walks away, it's clearing space for a healthier connection. When an opportunity falls apart, it's making room for something more aligned with your purpose. What feels like loss is often the very thing that sets you free from what was quietly suffocating your spirit. Endings force you to stop moving in circles and begin moving forward. They teach you to trust yourself more deeply, to rely on your intuition, and to stop seeking security in people or places that cannot offer it. They break the patterns that have kept you stuck. They reveal the truth behind situations you romanticized or justified. And they remind you that you deserve more than what you are settling for. With every ending comes the quiet invitation to begin again, not from desperation, but from wisdom. You rebuild with clearer eyes, stronger boundaries, and a deeper understanding of what your soul actually needs. The chapter may be over, but the story is moving you somewhere meaningful. Endings are not dead ends. They are the turning points that lead you back to yourself. Clarity doesn't always unfold slowly. It often arrives in a single, undeniable moment, like a light switching on in a room you didn't realize had grown dim. One day you're confused, entangled in thoughts, caught between hope and fear, unable to decide which direction to take. Then suddenly, without warning, something inside you shifts. You see the truth with a sharpness you can't ignore. What was blurry becomes clear. What was complicated becomes simple. The mind stops arguing, and the heart stops begging. You understand, in an instant, what you've been avoiding for months or even years. This sudden clarity is not random. It forms quietly beneath the surface long before you become aware of it. Your subconscious gathers information, observes patterns, and notices the inconsistencies your conscious mind doesn't want to face. It waits until you're strong enough to see the truth without breaking. It waits until denial is too heavy to carry. Then it delivers clarity in one powerful moment, freeing you from illusions you've outgrown. You realize who truly values you, and who only values your silence. You see which commitments nourish you, and which ones diminish you. You understand which dreams were yours and which ones were built from pressure, fear, or old versions of yourself. Clarity can feel like a relief, but it can also feel like a sting. It exposes the truths you hid behind hope. It reveals the parts of yourself you abandoned to belong. It highlights the relationships you held on to long after they stopped holding on to you, and even though it can hurt, clarity liberates you from the emotional fog that kept you repeating the same patterns. With clarity, you stop making excuses for people who keep showing you the same behavior. You stop bargaining with your own intuition. You stop waiting for potential to become reality. You finally choose truth over attachment. This sudden understanding creates a shift in your actions. You speak with more honesty. You protect your boundaries with more conviction. You walk away from situations that once held power over you. You no longer feel compelled to justify what you feel or explain what you already know. Clarity anchors you, it aligns you, it sharpens your inner compass so you can move forward with purpose instead of confusion. When clarity arrives, it doesn't just change your mind, it changes your direction. It pulls you out of cycles, lifts the veil, and reminds you of your own strength. It is the moment your inner world decides it is finally time to stop settling for what is familiar and start choosing what is true. Renewal doesn't begin with a dramatic change in your surroundings. It begins quietly within you, in places no one else can see. It starts as a subtle shift in awareness, a soft awakening that whispers you're no longer the person you used to be. You begin noticing your own thoughts differently. You begin questioning the patterns you once lived by. You start craving peace more than attention, truth more than comfort, alignment more than approval. This inner stirring is the first sign that your spirit is preparing to rebuild itself from the inside out. Renewal is not an external event, it's an internal rebirth. At first it may feel strange, even uncomfortable. You sense that something in you is rearranging, releasing and expanding all at once. You lose interest in old habits that once numbed you. You grow tired of emotional cycles that kept you stuck. You become more protective of your energy, more selective with your time, and more honest about what drains you. You no longer feel the urge to pretend or perform. Instead, you feel drawn to stillness, reflection, and authenticity. This isn't isolation, it's alignment. It's your inner world cleansing everything that does not belong to your future. During this internal renewal, you begin to reconnect with the parts of yourself you buried to survive. You rediscover your intuition, the voice you ignored for too long. You remember your strength, not the kind that comes from enduring pain, but the kind that comes from choosing yourself. You feel your self-worth rising quietly, not as ego, but as understanding. You start to trust your own feelings without needing validation. You begin to make choices based on your truth instead of your fear. Renewal happens when you come home to yourself after being lost in expectations, illusions, or past versions of who you thought you needed to be. As this inner transformation deepens, your outer life begins to shift as a reflection of your internal change. You let go of relationships that no longer honor your growth. You step away from roles that shrink you. You say no without guilt and yes without fear. You build healthier boundaries, not as walls, but as doors that open only to what nourishes your soul. You stop forcing, chasing, or begging life to stay the same. Instead, you welcome the new with a quiet confidence born from healing. Renewal is the invisible turning point where you stop living from your wounds and start living from your wisdom. It is the quiet beginning of a life that finally matches who you truly are. A fresh start is not simply a change in circumstances. It is a spiritual invitation, a doorway into a deeper and more authentic version of yourself. It often arrives disguised as disruption, loss, or endings, but underneath the surface something sacred is unfolding. Life begins to whisper that the chapter you've been clinging to has served its purpose, and now it's time to rise into a new one. This invitation doesn't force you, it calls to you gently through intuition, restlessness, and the subtle pull toward something more aligned. It asks you to step out of the identity you built from survival and into the one shaped by truth. You may not realize you're being invited into a fresh start at first. It often begins with a quiet dissatisfaction, a sense that the life you've been living no longer reflects who you are becoming. Your dreams shift, your values deepen, and your tolerance for what drains you disappears. What once felt acceptable now feels suffocating. What once felt comfortable now feels limiting. This is not coincidence. It is the beginning of spiritual realignment. Something within you knows it's time to grow, even if your mind is still trying to hold on. This invitation challenges you to let go of old versions of yourself that were shaped by fear, trauma, or the desire to be accepted. It asks you to release relationships, roles, and narratives that no longer resonate with your soul. These releases can feel painful, but they are acts of liberation. A fresh start requires space. Space for new opportunities, new connections, and new truths to arrive. The universe clears what you cannot carry into your next chapter, not to hurt you, but to prepare you. Accepting this invitation means trusting the unseen path ahead. It means surrendering the illusion of control and moving with the flow of life instead of resisting it. You begin to understand that every ending was a beginning in disguise, every loss was a redirection, and every discomfort was guiding you to your own expansion. You learn to listen to your intuition more closely, honoring its quiet wisdom over the noise of your fears. A fresh start is the moment you choose alignment over familiarity. It is the decision to no longer betray yourself for the sake of belonging. It is the courage to step into a chapter where you are guided not by old wounds, but by a deeper sense of purpose. It is the spiritual doorway into the life you were always meant to live, one built on truth, peace, and the quiet strength of becoming who you truly are. In the end, a fresh start is not something you wait for, it's something you answer. It's the moment you stop negotiating with the past and begin honoring the quiet wisdom rising within you. You don't need every step mapped out. You don't need perfect certainty. You only need the willingness to trust that what is leaving your life is clearing the way for what is meant to arrive. So take a breath. Stand in the space between who you were and who you are becoming. And let this be the moment you choose yourself, not out of fear, but out of truth. The universe has already shifted. The path has already opened. All that's left is for you to walk forward with the courage of someone who finally understands that beginnings are not found, they are created. Step into your new chapter with clarity, with faith, and with the quiet knowing that you are being guided. Your fresh start isn't out there somewhere. It begins right here, within you.